All right, so to begin, basically today's session is going to be for the consumer and commercial filter applications. So we're going to talk about a little bit about the filters and particularly about their applications. And then I'm going to be talking for about 15-20 minutes, and then going to have an open Q&A session to follow after that. So please hold your questions until then. If you have something very important to ask in between, you can go ahead and do so. So for some of the consumer and commercial applications, we basically have them into 4 categories, and we're going to basically be talking about 3 of the key categories, at least for today. They are small appliances and products, large consumer products and white goods, commercial appliances and products, and the 4th one worth mentioning is other consumer products, which we're really not going to elaborate or talk upon today. So what are some of the small appliances and products that we can go out there and target and win for our business that we want you to go out and for your territory? Well, some of them are stand mixers, blenders, hand mixers, juicers, power tools, food processors, vacuum cleaners. For vacuum cleaners, typically talking about anywhere from upright, canister, or even handheld, small handheld. Something to note here is most of these products require motors in them, and therefore the need for EMI filters. What are some of the filters that we have for this particular application? Well, one of the standard ones, is a single phase application, 1 to 16 amp range, 100 to 250 volts AC, and 50 to 60 hertz in terms of frequency. So that covers, of course, domestic and foreign. One of the key things I want to point out here for this application and the other applications is that we offer customized and fully custom designed solutions, which are very common even right now with the current customers that we have. What I mean by customized is we have a standard off-the-shelf filter that we send out for their testing and initial qualification, and then if it fails, we tweak it up a little bit and we provide them with a passing solution. And for a fully custom design, what I mean by that is, of course, a filter entirely but from scratch that we haven't provided to anybody. And I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. Chokes is also very common in terms of providing to our customers or OEMs. One thing to keep in mind with chokes is that we want to target high volume applications here. So we can basically sell in large amounts. Target applications. Basically for this, what I'm talking about is for companies that have U.S. design / engineering and manufacturing locations. So for that, anything that built or designed for export models will require EMI filters. The rest of the world, pretty much all appliances that they make and design will require EMI filters. Now, to elaborate a little bit more on that category, once again, export models require EMI filters. One of the key things I want to mention here is that we want to target mid to high-end appliance companies or OEMs. With that being said, it's because the higher volume appliances that they make are not very suitable for our particular needs, and we're much more successful in mid to high-end appliances because they have filter requirements and typically will require a full box size filter. And the key note here with these appliances, or these small appliances, is that the corded appliances require it, which includes the hand drills or any hand tools or tools required for the construction industry or even consumer for that matter. So what are some of the success stories we've had for small appliances products? Well, we have TTI Floor Care, we have Waring as our customer, we have Vitamix, we have Whirlpool, we have Stanley Black & Decker, and one of the key focus I wanted to mention, at least for this particular application, is Metrovac. We provided filters for the heavy-duty blenders, stand mixers, hand mixers, power tools, for instance, Stanley Black & Decker, and heavy-duty blenders, and even vacuum cleaners. For Metrovac, for instance, to be specific, it's one of those niche company that we have that basically makes blowers and vacuums for the pet and automotive industry. Now, these guys came through the door looking for a filter solution. But they were already our existing customer. Now, they had a couple products, which is a hand blower and a vacuum for the European market to branch out there in Australia, and they couldn't pass their EMC testing. So they reached out to us. We took the products, we got the samples in-house, we did testing here, engineering did it, and we basically provided them with a couple iterations of working solution. Right now, we're actually working with them to basically come up with the fit and form of the filter and make it a complete way. So what are some of the target OEMs that we have? Well, those are some of the companies that are good targets for us. Once again, same thing here. Mid volume range is what we're targeting. High-end appliances typically require EMI filters, so we want to target that. We want you guys to go out there and see if in your territory, if you have a company, one of these companies or something along those lines that are making these type of products that were mentioned before. So moving on, large consumer products and white goods. What do we have here in terms of the applications or the types of products? We have refrigerators, freezers, microwaves, treadmills, washing machines, dryers, step mills, Stairmasters. Once again, some of these products, as you can see, have motors in them or heavy-duty motors in them, therefore requiring EMI filters. What are the type of filters that are suitable for this particular application? Well, single phase, 3 to 20 amp application. Once again, standard voltage of 120 to 250 VAC range, 50 to 60 hertz. One of the bigger things, one of the other things we have is the power factor control correction chokes. These are very common in this application. One of the key things to target or worth mentioning here for the white goods is the water ingress resistance capability of the filter, and which is required for laundry equipment and anything where there's damp or wet locations. What are some of the target applications in terms of U.S. design or rest of the world design and manufacturing? Once again, all export and some domestic models require EMI filters. For the rest of the world, once again, all appliances require EMI filters. And to elaborate on that, keep some of the points, or I mentioned earlier, larger motors with high power electronics will require EMI filters, and they will typically require a filter box instead of the discrete components themselves. And anything that is high-end in terms of domestic model range or even export models, which have induction and microwave functioning incorporated in there, would almost always need an EMI filter or some form of EMI filter. Well, what are some of the success stories we've had with these kind of OEMs and companies? Some of the companies worth mentioning are True Fitness, Life Fitness, Woodway, Icon. We've provided them standard filter solutions for their treadmills. Whirlpool, we've provided the refrigerator filtering, and we've provided filtering for the washing machines. Precor is the focus for this one. One of the things I want to mention is additional to just standard EMI filters and components, we want to provide value-added proposition in terms of product offering to the OEMs or companies. So something a little bit extra to throw in there in terms of, well, Precor, we've provided them a filter assembly with the breaker, a fuse holder, and the IC inlet, and you can see that on the bottom right picture. This is basically a small sub-assembly with these components. And once we integrate all these components, we come up with that, and we've satisfied their particular need for this treadmill application. And another thing we provided Precor is the electromagnet assembly, which you see on the top. Basically, it's a magnet assembly that we've provided for their e-braking for their stationary bikes. So once again, these are some of the success stories we've had. There are a number of other ones, and these are worth mentioning. Particularly Precor is a good example. What are some of the good target OEMs or companies that we can go after? For white goods, you see the list there. These are just some of the companies that are good targets, that can be a good fit for the EMI filters, and those on the right are for the fitness equipment that we're trying to target in terms of winning and driving more business. Moving on to the commercial appliances. Well, it's slightly a little bit different. It's commercial. We're not talking about consumer. These equipment, or all these equipments, they basically belong in the restaurant / fast food chains, and some of the typical applications or equipment that we want to target are fryers, vending machines, commercial laundry machines, commercial refrigerators and freezers, holding ovens, basically ovens that are keeping the food warm, ovens and combi ovens, multi-purpose ovens. What are some of the filters that are suitable for this particular application for commercial appliances? Single phase filters, 3 to 20 amps. Once again, voltage, same, 120 to 250 VAC, 50-60 hertz frequency. And we're also going to have 3-phase applications as well, from 3 to 40 amps for this particular application. 208 to 480 VAC, 50 to 60 hertz. One of the things here worth mentioning is the high surge requirements also for their, basically for a lot of these higher power products require high surge requirements, and we're talking about anywhere from 4 to 5 kV of voltage. So our filters are a little bit more than the standard filters in terms of offering for this application, where they can sustain those kind of surge requirements. Target application, once again, for U.S. design and manufacturing, all export and some domestic models. Key emphasis here is some domestic models requiring EMI filters, and for the rest of the world, it's all appliances. And to elaborate on that, once again, standard, just like the other two categories, export models requiring EMI filtering, and high-end models with high-end, not only just high-end models, but high-end models and high-end models with induction and microwave function incorporated into them will typically require some form of EMI filtering. That being said, some of the success stories we've had with commercial appliances are Pitco, Garland, Crane, O'Haring, Hatco, TurboChef, and some of the target OEMs that we want to reach out to. First column, as you can see, with Ali Group, Standex, Cornelius, Middleby Group. These are big holding or big groups, companies that have many companies underneath them. So they have a lot of product lines / brands that can be good to go out, and they're spread all across the country pretty much. So it'd be good if you can target them, if you can find them in your territory and see if we can provide some kind of filtering solution for their products. The second column, the companies in the second column that you see are large standalone companies. Once again, good target companies to reach out to if they happen to be in your service territory. And the last one, is Alliance Laundry. This is a single company with those 5 companies under its umbrella, and those are very good for basically your commercial laundry applications / products. So those would be some very good target companies, or anything out there that you know of that might be in your territory. And to wrap this up, basically what we want to try to bring here is that we have the capability to work with a customer in the initial round to get some kind of a sample going. So typically what we do is we find out a little bit about the application, and then once we do that, we try to narrow down to a standard off-the-shelf product that we have. We send them a sample, and then they do the initial testing, and then we can somehow either tweak it based on their needs or their fail margin, or we can come back to the drawing board and make additional, specification changes, whether it's the layout or even add more to the circuitry of the filtering itself to make it more suitable for their application. So we can elaborate on the design, and we can make it more suitable for their application and for them to pass their EMC requirements. And we basically are very good with that, with any of these 3 categories that I mentioned in terms of commercial appliances, small and large and white goods products. So that's something really good to go out there and pitch out to your customers, and we can work with them and have more success stories. So with that being said, these are some of the key differentiators for our company, and feel free to just take a quick look at them. While now I open up the doors for Q&A. And with that being said, let me unmute everybody. Okay, feel free to unmute yourself and speak up for any questions that you might have.
We're going to have a copy of this presentation.
Yes, I can send you a copy of this presentation. Sure.
You mentioned volume requirements on one end, and you also show commercial appliances where the volumes are less significant. What's low volume and for you guys?
So for we want to target, at least for the small and large appliances and products, we want to target mid. What I mean by mid is anywhere from 5, 10 to 30 to 50,000, right? So that's what we're good at. Now, typically the mid volume range or products are high end also. So they require some form of EMI filtering, at least for domestic and international. International, everything that goes out there requires EMI filtering. But we also want to focus on domestic appliances and products that require it. And typically the mid-volume happens to be the high-end product, which requires the EMI filtering. Now,
okay.
As far as,
Yeah, well, so I think there's no straight answer for that. It all depends on what product you're talking about. So for small appliances, very small appliances, the mid volumes could be in thousands. For commercial appliances, the mid volumes could be in high hundreds, okay, mid to high hundreds, or because these are restaurant equipment. So it all depends. What we are trying to say is, for small appliances, if you say hundreds and thousands of pieces, probably those are very, very cost-sensitive products. And putting a discrete filter on those products will be very, very difficult. And we can still look at it, but it might not work as well because customer will try to pinch out every penny they can. But when you get into mid volumes, which is 10,000, 15,000, we have worked on products that are 1,000 pieces on small appliances, and it works. So anywhere in that to all the way up to 30, 40, 50,000, it's a good, there's no firm number, but in that kind of range, it always is more convenient for us because there is a little less cost pressure. And of course, as the appliances get bigger, that number keeps coming down because now you're talking about a more expensive filter. So it all depends on the overall value of the business. For a standard filter, and for a standard filter, it doesn't matter. We can sell 50 of those, doesn't matter. But when you're looking at customization, yeah, the number comes into play, man.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, guys? This is Anand here. Any other questions regarding application? Any companies you might have in your area that you see resonating with the names that were shown on the presentation by? The names you had shown that as being for give you a feel of what kind of companies you're talking about. These are some of the typical companies that will require filters in these specific segments. But they doesn't necessarily mean that these are the companies we can focus. For example, GE is there, but GE is extremely difficult company to work with because, again, they make very inexpensive products. Some of those products are extremely expensive and they have extreme cost pressures. Pinching every dime and selling $1 filters sometimes becomes almost next to impossible. But there might be similar companies in the area which probably don't make these in millions, and they make probably 50,000, 60,000, 10,000 of these, and that's where we can do wonders.
Anybody else have any other questions?
I guess not. Okay, then I guess we can close it, and we'll send the presentation over to everybody who is online, and go from there.
Thank you.